From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your afternoon update.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger, and the temperatures are going to be just kind of leveling out here today, tomorrow, but by the weekend, temperatures are going to start to drop. But another thing to talk about is the potential for thunderstorms. And it's not just the mountains. We've got our eyes on some parts of the valley as well. More on that just a little bit later. Now, looking at the long range, heat waves? No, I don't see any big heat waves heading our way anytime soon. There's a threat for some heat waves. We'll get into that in a little bit more detail as well. So here's your neighborhood forecast for the rest of the day today. Some of us in the valley could touch 100, but we're basically talking anywhere from low 90s for the south end of the valley to upper 90s for the north end of the valley. Trinity County, mid 90s, low to mid 90s really. The coast, mid 60s, a little bit harder to clear out in some spots than others, so we'll call it partly to mostly cloudy skies for the coast. Sunny skies elsewhere, temperatures in the 80s for Siskiyou, Modoc County. Eastern mountains, temperatures there somewhere in the 90s. Take a look at your fire weather forecast, and this is sponsored by Garmin's Tractor Service, and the winds are picking up for the west side of the valley, especially in Tehama and Shasta counties. Now, your typical spots in the mountains are also going to see some breezy conditions as we typically see for this time of the year. Now, the main concern for the next 24 hours will be Friday morning and Friday afternoon in the valley. Look at those gusts. Now we're getting into the 40-mile-an-hour range, possibly, for some of the areas west of the valley and the foothills, west of I-5, even into Glenn County as well. This is going to elevate the fire weather risk even higher for most of the valley by tomorrow afternoon. Now, Saturday, it looks like the wind should start to die down, but maybe a little breezy again for Saturday afternoon. So, the main area of concern today will be in western Tehama and western Shasta County. Otherwise, I do expect conditions to improve tonight, but by tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, more kind of overspreading that area of high fire danger for the valley, but not as bad for the mountains as you can see in the moderate, really low to moderate category there. And then we do expect to see some improvement through at least the first half of the day on Saturday. All right, so here's really the big story. Here's the big picture. You see a couple of areas of spin of low pressure over the Gulf of Alaska. These are systems that have been kind of breaking down at the ridge of high pressure that gave us the heat wave this past weekend and early this week. So that's why our temperatures are dropping. But there's also this big pool of moisture over the western Pacific. And we are beginning to see signs, and have seen signs, of an atmospheric river beginning to take shape here in August. Now, the main impact of this quote-unquote atmospheric river is going to be in the Pacific Northwest. But another thing to point out is this is not going to be your typical flooding conditions, heavy rainfall for hours on end. No, that's not what this is going to be at all, not even close. It is going to be impacting the Pacific Northwest mainly. As you can see here, that stream of moisture tapping into that moisture over the western Pacific. Now, it's mainly aimed at the Pacific Northwest today and tomorrow. Now, some of it does kind of spill southward into the north end of Northern California in general. Then that all shifts southward. Now, we're beginning to lose that tap of moisture. However, I mean, you can still see there's that little bit of that atmospheric river in Northern California. This, again, is not going to be anything major. Don't think of this as going, oh my gosh, here's an atmospheric river or pineapple, whatever you want to call it, heading into Northern California where you see tons of rain. Nope, not even close. We will see rain. We'll mainly see thunderstorms in the higher elevations, but even the valley may see some activity. Now, Sunday, we're cut off from all of that, right, at this point. But notice there's still some leftover moisture over Northern California as the greens and yellows. That's enough moisture for us to tap into to bring us more thunderstorms, mainly in the mountains. Then, by early next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're getting more into the browns and those blue colors. That's the drier air moving back in that we typically see this time of the year. So let's take a look at Futurecast. Now, the short-range model really not going to show us much in the way of that rain, but you can see that as we do go into Friday morning, there's not much going on, right? Just the fog along the coast. By the way, the coast may see some patchy areas of clearing this afternoon, but still a lot of low clouds and fog along the coast here today. Now tomorrow, fog no doubt there. Now notice Futurecast is picking up on some green there. See the green? That's rain, that's showers. Most likely, that'll evaporate before reaching the ground. But again, if you see a stray sprinkle or two in Siskiyou County, don't be surprised. Then you can see that main boundary is pushing through Saturday morning for the coast, and then midday, some showers, possible thunderstorms. That boundary kind of pushing through Siskiyou County. Now, there is some indication that by Saturday evening, Saturday night, we may see some of that moisture working its way into parts of the north end of the valley. Here's Saturday at 5 p.m. See where most of it's in the mountains again. But as we go into the overnight hours, you can see, some of that trying to work its way into the valley. Now, this forecast model since this morning has kind of backed off on that, how aggressive it's going to be with that. So anything we do see, should we see anything for Redding or even Red Bluff, will be a sprinkle or a light shower. And an off chance for a straight thunderstorm for the north end of the valley. But otherwise, most of the thunderstorms are going to be confined in the higher elevations. And that'll be the case again on Sunday as well. But then, as we were talking about, drier air moving in for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And our next focus will be on that ridge of high pressure that is over the over the southwestern United States, the desert southwest. So the overall setup is the main areas of high pressure and the heat have been pushed off to the west and to the east of us. And we've got these systems coming into the Gulf of Alaska that have some cooler air associated with it. And that's what's allowing our temperatures to drop. But it's also really helping to tap in some of that moisture, and that's why we're seeing those thunderstorms in the higher elevations, along with those that instability kind of moving in as well. Now, we are seeing some signs. We're going to have to watch that ridge of high pressure over the desert southwest. Just how strong it builds and how close it builds to us will depend on just how hot it gets. But as of right now, I don't see anything major heading our way. Yes, we've got that nice drop in our temperatures the second half of the weekend, in particular early next week. But then we see temperatures climb back up just above normal by the time we get to the middle and latter part of next week, really, is where we're going to notice those hotter temperatures. So for today, for your Thursday, 91 Willows, but then you head north, you're talking 99 for Redding. So we could touch 100 degrees in some spots for the valley, but for the most part, 90s. 80s and 90s for the higher elevations, breaking away from the triple digits in Trinity County, which I'm sure is a welcome sight, and low to mid 60s for the coast. Tonight, upper 60s for the valley, 40s and 50s for the higher elevations, and for the coast, low to mid 50s. No big surprises there. So your 7-day forecast for the valley. I've put the chance in there for a stray shower or a sprinkle, maybe an off chance for a thunderstorm, something worth watching and monitoring very closely. Otherwise, cooler over the weekend and a slight warming trend going through next week. The coast, showers on Saturday, showers on the inland areas, and maybe some thunderstorms for Trinity County for Saturday, Sunday, drying out, and slight warming trend through next week. Showers and thunderstorms for the rest of the mountains, Siskiyou, Modoc County, eastern mountains in general. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it dries out and temperatures slowly increasing as well. All right, that's your afternoon update. I'll be back again at 6 o'clock this evening with the latest forecast. Until then, have a great afternoon.
Fire spreads quickly. Don't wait until it's too late. Garmin's Tractor Service specializes in field mowing and light tractor work to help protect your family, your property, and those around you. We're fully insured, locally licensed, and ready to help you create the defensible space you need. Call or text Garmin's Tractor Service today. Protect what matters before fire strikes you.